Every movie tells a story. Every story tells a tale. Come with us as the people behind the Cinemadness podcast talk candidly about the stories that connect them to their favorite movies. This is Real Stories from the Isles. Hey everybody, it's Adam again. Welcome back to another real story from the Isles. This time I'm going to be talking about the 1974 horror classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a little story behind it, because that's what this is all about. Now let me take you back to 1998. I was a teenager, about to graduate high school. And I worked at a comic shop at a local mall. It was this kiosk of comics. And I had a manager there that was super freaking cool. His name was Matt. And we got along famously. We got along so well, we became friends. We hung out all the time. He introduced me to a lot of the music that I still listen to today. A lot of the books and comics and all that kind of stuff. You know, he was that influential friend that you had that was like, okay, this is the life that I've always wanted. I don't know if everybody has that influential friend, but I had that for me. And it was him, and we had a great time. He was a writer and an artist, and we would hang out on weekends and watch just movies and we'd drink a lot too. Since he was older, he could buy beer, so we'd drink a lot. And that's what you do when you're a teenager, right? You find that older friend, and you have them buy you alcohol. Anyway, this one particular weekend, we decided to get all horror movies. And one of them was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I never saw up until I was 18. And it was just one of those movies that had the urban legend of it being the most goriest movie people ever saw. And as we know, it's not true. It's all in your head. All the gore is in your head, but it's so effective that it stays there. And it just has a different meaning. So I remember, we were watching Tetsuo the Iron Man, which is this Japanese movie. It's this Japanese movie about this guy who just starts to become a metallic man, like pieces of metal and stuff get into his skin and stuff. It's like a real body horror type black and white movie, and it's got this like just pumping industrial score to it, and it's a cool movie. I actually highly recommend it. But as an 18-year-old kid who wasn't entirely sober, I passed out on his couch. And between that movie and when I woke up, he started playing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I woke up a little past the beginning, and I started watching. And I don't know if it was due to the inebriation or me being half asleep, but I was just absolutely mesmerized by this movie. And also affected. I was quite affected by this movie. It's one of those movies that when you watch it, you don't know what you're in for. Even though it has this huge following, this was still in the late 90s, so there was no social media and stuff. We had chat rooms and that kind of thing, instant messengers and that stuff, but there was no spoiling anything. If you found a picture of Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the internet, it's usually like a picture of the TV or just the box art from the video cassette, and that's all you would see on the internet. So it was not spoiled for me what kind of movie it was, and that really is what affected me while watching it, because I made him stop the movie and start it over, and I fell in love with this movie, mainly because it was not what I expected it to be. The urban legend of it all being a vicious romp through a chainsaw infested slasher film, kind of like how the second one turned out, which is equally brilliant in its own way. But this first movie, it felt real. It felt dirty. It felt grimy. It felt like you could smell and feel the dirt in the Sawyer house. And it had the way Tobe Hooper shot it in this documentary style really affected me. And there was no glitz and glamour about it. And it was my introduction to the gritty old Hollywood horror type stuff. Not just the trash, but like just the gritty movies. And it quickly became one of my favorite movies. I showed all my friends, and a lot of my friends hadn't seen the movie. It's weird how this movie is like super popular, but a lot of people hadn't seen it. They just know, you say the name Leatherface and that's it. In fact, my first exposure to this movie, to even the words Texas Chainsaw Massacre, was the movie Summer School, which painted the movie in a completely, off the wall picture. So this movie is an inspiration to the stuff I like, to the way I like movies being made, to the way I like horror. I've been known to really love slasher movies. I've been known to really love off-the-wall Italian giallo films, but I also love this gritty, real, uncomfortable, slow. It's a slow movie. It's got some, bits in it, but it's a slow movie. I just really like good storytelling, well set up shots, and sometimes not very good lighting. Sometimes if your lighting is too well lit, it takes away from the story, and I think that's why I even like the Rob Zombie movies, knowing that they're made like a B movie, but at the same time they have that grit, they have that dirty feeling, especially Devil's Rejects. It's just something that I've loved all my life since I was 18, all my life since 1998, which is a long time ago now. Man, it feels like it was just like 10 years ago, but it's not. So yeah, that was my story on Texas Chainsaw Massacre and why it holds a place in my heart as, again, one of my favorite movies of all time, because it was so different. It was so unexpected, and it affected me that night. It affected me for the rest of my life after that night. Like I'm searching for that feeling again, for that feeling of uneasiness, for that feeling of ugh, but in a good way. I think that's the best way I can explain it. It's just ugh, but in a good way. So there it is. There's my little story about Texas Chainsaw Massacre and how it affects my life, and that's my real story. This time revolving around a 1974 movie made by Tobe Hooper, who had the opening narration by John Larroquette. I shouldn't throw in movie facts on a real story, but I just did, so there. And I hope you tune in for more real stories from the Isles and learn more about the rest of us Cinemadness podcast people, what makes us tick and what movies make us tick. So check out more of these, and always remember to keep celebrating cinema.